He finally found someone who understood him. Someone who stayed. Someone who saw the parts of him he spent years hiding from everyone else. And yet, the thing that changed him wasn't being loved. It was learning how to love. Most people spend their lives looking for true love. They imagine it's a feeling, a perfect person, a magical moment where everything suddenly makes sense. But that's not what true love is. And that's exactly why so many people miss it when it finally arrives. Because true love rarely looks the way we expect. It doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives disguised as sacrifice, patience, forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like staying when leaving would be easier. And sometimes, it looks like letting go. Most people completely miss what this story is really about. Because on the surface, it looks like a romance. But underneath, it's a story about what love demands from us, and what it reveals about who we really are. At first, everything feels familiar. Two people meet. A connection forms. The world suddenly seems brighter. Life gains color, meaning, possibility. For a while, everything feels effortless. The conversations flow. The laughter comes naturally. Being together feels easy. And this is usually the part people call love. But it isn't. Not yet. What we're seeing here is attraction, hope, projection. The beautiful illusion that another person might finally complete something missing inside us. Most people know this feeling. Maybe you've experienced it yourself. You meet someone and suddenly imagine an entire future. You don't just see who they are. You see who you hope they'll become. You see who you hope you'll become around them. And that's where the story quietly changes. Because eventually reality arrives. It always does. The flaws become visible. The misunderstandings start appearing. The differences become impossible to ignore. The fantasy fades. One of the most important moments in any love story happens when two people finally see each other clearly. Not idealized. Not imagined. Not perfected. Clearly. The flaws, the fears, the insecurities, the wounds, everything. On the surface, this moment seems disappointing. The illusion breaks. The mystery fades. The imperfections emerge. But psychologically, this is where real love becomes possible. Because genuine love requires reality. You cannot truly love someone you do not actually see. You can only love your idea of them. And those are very different things. This is why so many relationships collapse after the honeymoon phase. People mistake familiarity for failure. They think the loss of fantasy means the loss of love. When in reality, the loss of fantasy is often the first step toward it. Because now the choice becomes real. Now you're choosing an actual human being, not a dream, not a projection, a person. And that choice means everything. There is another scene that appears simple on the surface. One person makes a sacrifice for another. Nothing dramatic. Nothing grand. Just a quiet decision. A choice made without recognition, without reward, without applause. Most viewers barely notice it. But psychologically, it may be the most important moment in the entire story. Because true love is revealed through sacrifice. Not sacrifice that destroys you. Not sacrifice that erases your identity. But sacrifice that places someone's well-being alongside your own. For a brief moment, the self stops being the center of everything. And another person's happiness genuinely matters. What makes this painful is that true love often asks for vulnerability. And vulnerability is terrifying. To love someone is to hand them the power to hurt you. To trust them with parts of yourself you've hidden from everyone else. To risk rejection, abandonment, loss. Most people spend years building emotional armor. But love requires the opposite. Love asks us to lower the defenses. We've spent years constructing. Not because it's safe, but because connection is impossible without risk. Perhaps the most heartbreaking scene arrives near the end. Not because something terrible happens, but because someone finally understands. They realize that love was never about possession. It was never about control. It was never about making someone stay. It was about wanting what is best for them, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Most people misunderstand this completely. They think love means holding on. But sometimes love means releasing your grip. Sometimes love means accepting a reality you didn't choose. Sometimes love means respecting another person's path even when it takes them away from you. In the end, true love doesn't look like perfection. It doesn't look like constant happiness. It doesn't look like two flawless people completing each other. It looks like understanding, patience, presence. It looks like choosing someone after the illusion fades. It looks like seeing their imperfections and staying anyway. It looks like sacrifice without keeping score. It looks like vulnerability despite the risk. And sometimes, it looks like letting go with love instead of holding on with fear. That's what makes true love so rare. And so powerful. Because it isn't something you find. It's something you become capable of. The greatest love stories were never teaching us how